After losing my job, I confided in my wife, hoping for support. Instead, her entitled brother moved into our home the same week, took over my office, and said, "Guess I'm the real man of the house now." My wife just smiled and said, "He needs this more than you ever did." That night, he drank my last beer, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "You should start packing." I slept in my car that night. But the morning after, I left something on the kitchen table that I've always been a provider. Grew up in a working-class family on the south side of Colorado Springs. Nothing was handed to me. I worked my way through school, skipped vacations, built up a life the hard way. I wasn't flashy, but I was steady, solid. I thought that was enough. I met Melissa through mutual friends after college. She was sharp, funny in a dry way, and had this quiet confidence that made you feel like she always had a plan. We dated for 2 years before getting married. I never doubted her. We didn't fight much. We didn't talk about feelings much either, but that was normal, right? I worked logistics for a trucking company out of Denver, commuting most days. It was long hours, but I made good money, enough for us to buy a house, build savings, and plan for kids we never ended up having. Melissa had a part-time gig doing marketing from home, but mostly she managed things around the house. Then came the merger. Out of nowhere, our company was absorbed. Suddenly, there were new faces, new systems, and a new corporate office in Texas. One by one, people started getting laid off. When it was my turn, I didn't get mad. I just went numb. I remember driving home that day in silence. I kept thinking, just tell her, be honest, she'll understand. She was my wife. She'd been with me for over a decade. I walked in the door around 3 p.m., earlier than normal. Melissa was on the couch scrolling her phone. I said, "Hey, we need to talk." I explained everything. Told her I'd been let go. Told her I had severance for a few months, that I'd start applying right away. I even joked, maybe it's time I finally start that business I always talk about. She didn't laugh. She didn't even look at me. She just said, "What are you going to do now?" That hit harder than the layoff. No concern, no hug, nothing. Just that cold, flat question. 3 days later, I came home from dropping off resumes and found her brother Ray on the porch, smoking a vape pen and blasting music from his phone. He had a duffel bag, 2 garbage bags of clothes, and a box labeled "My shit." I stared at him. "What the hell is this?" He smiled like it was a joke. "Long story, man." Melissa said it's cool. I went inside and found Melissa in the kitchen. "You didn't even ask me?" I said. She turned, casually, like I was the crazy one. "He's my brother. He got kicked out. He needs a place. It's temporary." I reminded her we only had 2 bedrooms, and one was my office. She shrugged. "You're not working. He needs it more than you ever did." That was the moment I realized I wasn't the man of the house anymore. I was just a guest. Ray moved in that night. He didn't ask where things were. He just took over. He turned my office into his man cave, threw my books in a box, and dumped them in the basement. Every day, I'd walk past that door and hear video game gunfire, loud cursing, and some Joe Rogan podcast about alpha males. Melissa didn't care. In fact, she seemed lighter, like she enjoyed the chaos. The night it broke me was a Friday. I was sitting outside on the porch, just trying to breathe, thinking about what to do next. I came back in around 11 p.m., hoping for a quiet beer and some sleep. I opened the fridge. My last bottle of Fat Tire was gone. I'd been saving it. Just one little comfort. Ray was on the couch, shirtless, feet on the table, holding the empty bottle. He grinned like a villain in a movie. "Guess I'm the real man of the house now," he said. I just stood there, stunned. Melissa came in from the hallway, saw me, and didn't say a word. He looked at her. "Right, sis?" She smiled. "He needs this, babe," she said. "You'll find your way. Just give him some space." That night, I didn't say a word. I grabbed my coat, walked out to the driveway, and slept in my car. The leather was freezing. I didn't have a blanket. I kept the engine off so they wouldn't hear me. But I stayed up all night thinking, not crying, just planning. And the next morning, I walked back inside while they were still asleep. I didn't say a word. I went to the drawer, pulled out a pen and a blank sheet of printer paper, and wrote down 3 things. A divorce lawyer I knew from high school who owed me a favor. A private investigator named Steve who used to work with me when we tracked down stolen cargo. A locksmith I'd hired once before when I changed the locks on our garage. Guy worked fast, no questions asked. I folded it once. Wrote my exit plan on the outside. left it on the kitchen table, and then I walked out. I didn't go back that night. Not the next night either. But I wasn't disappearing. I was taking the first step. I didn't disappear. I just stopped playing by their rules. After leaving that note on the table, I checked into a cheap extended stay motel on the east side of town. Nothing fancy, but it had Wi-Fi and a door that locked. I slept for 12 hours straight the first night. When I woke up, it was like my mind finally cleared. Melissa didn't call. Not that day, not the next. No, where are you? No, are you okay? Nothing. On the third day, I turned my phone back on. There were 2 texts. One from her. Let me know when you're ready to talk like an adult. And one from Ray. Your shit's in the garage. That told me everything I needed to know. I didn't reply. Instead, I called Steve the PI. I gave him one task. I need to know what's really going on inside my house. I didn't trust Melissa anymore, and I never trusted Ray. Something about how quickly he moved in, how comfortable he was, how Melissa defended him, it didn't sit right. Steve started surveillance the next day. Meanwhile, I met with the divorce attorney, Brian. He still wore cowboy boots and had a nervous tick when he talked, but he was smart. Sharp with paperwork, too. I told him everything. He nodded slowly. You're not crazy, he said. But if you want the upper hand, don't act out. Be strategic. He helped me start the paperwork. Quietly. Nothing filed yet. Just prepared. A week after I left, Steve sent me the first photos. Melissa and Ray. On the couch. Too close. Her legs over his. Laughing like teenagers. Drinking wine together. Bottles I bought. That night, Steve caught video of Melissa coming out of the shower in just a towel. Ray followed right behind her, shirtless. She didn't flinch. I didn't want to believe it. But I knew. I'd known for a while. Some part of me just refused to see it. Ray wasn't just staying with us. He wasn't just her brother. I felt sick. I couldn't eat for 2 days. I sent Brian the photos. He didn't even blink. Adultery plus property displacement, he said. We can work with this. Then I called the locksmith. I changed the locks while they were gone one afternoon. I timed it with Steve's help. He let me know when they both left the house together. Again, like a couple. I had 30 minutes. I went in, changed every lock on every door, and took my important documents, birth certificate, social, the house deed I stupidly put in both our names. I also grabbed something else. An old iPad we hadn't used in months. Still logged into Melissa's Apple account. That gave me access to her texts, her photos, her notes. And there it was. Messages between her and Ray, going back 6 months. He's such a boring loser. We deserve more. Once he's gone, we'll sell the house and start fresh. Make him think it's his fault. My hands were shaking. They planned this. She'd been waiting for me to fall. She didn't just allow Ray and she wanted him there. She wanted me to break, so she could take everything while pretending to be the victim. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went back to the motel and made 3 copies of everything. One on a thumb drive. One in the cloud. One printed out. I also went back to Brian. I want the house, I said. And I want her gone. He smiled and said, we'll make that happen. But it wasn't enough. Because now, I didn't just want justice. I wanted them both to suffer. I thought I had seen it all. The affair. The texts. The plan to push me out of my own home. I thought that was the bottom. But I was wrong. The twist came when I checked the iPad's Notes app again, a few days later. I hadn't noticed it before. Melissa had hidden a folder labeled Budget. Inside were details about bank accounts I didn't recognize. At first I thought they were hers, maybe some old savings account she hadn't mentioned. But then I started noticing transfers. From our joint account. Thousands, over the last 6 months. Always small enough to avoid suspicion, but steady. And always to the same 2 accounts, one under her name, the other under Raymond Tyler Parks. Ray. She had been slowly draining our savings behind my back. Not just planning to leave me, planning to bleed me dry before doing it. When I brought it to Brian, his face turned serious. This is calculated, he said. Premeditated financial abuse. If we get the right judge, we can show this as marital fraud. We filed the divorce papers that Friday morning. Served by a process server right as they stepped out of our local grocery store together. Steve made sure to be there with a camera. But here's the twist that broke the whole thing open. Ray wasn't Melissa's biological brother. Not even close. They met at a bar 2 years ago. Pretended to be brother and sister so no one would suspect anything. She brought him into our lives gradually, first as her troubled brother from out of state, then as a frequent guest. The few times I questioned it, she told me I was overthinking it. And I believed her. Like a fool. Ray had never been on her family tree. Steve confirmed it. He checked public records, birth certificates, everything. They were lovers the entire time. The brother label was a sick joke they used to cover their tracks. I remembered the way they touched each other. The inside jokes. The whispering when I walked into the room. Now it all made sense. I confronted her via email. Attached the photos, the records, the texts, the fake brother lie. Her response? You don't understand what it's like to be with someone who feels alive. You were a paycheck with shoes. That's when I snapped. Not in an angry way. In a focused way. I wasn't just going to take the house. I was going to take their future. Brian and I pulled every string we had. With Steve's evidence, we froze the joint accounts, submitted a request for an emergency financial injunction, and served Melissa with a demand for full property separation based on fraud and abuse. It worked. The court ruled in my favor, temporarily freezing her access to marital assets and granting me sole use of the home until the final hearing. When she came by to talk, I met her at the door, calm, paperwork in hand. She tried to push past me. I said, "This is the part where you start packing." Ray was in the car, waiting. Coward. I handed her a box. "Only what you brought into this house goes with you. You lie one more time, and I'll press charges for fraud." She didn't speak, just glared, her face full of hate, like I'd ruined her life. Ray never even got out of the car. But it wasn't over yet, because I had one last card to play. After that confrontation at the door, Melissa didn't come back to the house. She left with one box of clothes, some toiletries, and a folder she'd tucked under her arm, probably full of whatever personal lies she planned to use in court. I didn't care anymore. She could twist words all she wanted. I had receipts. I had proof. And more importantly, I had the house back. But I wasn't done. There was something unfinished deep in my chest. A pressure that hadn't eased even after I locked the door behind her. She and Ray hadn't just broken my trust. They tried to erase me. Steal my name, my home, my sense of reality. They played this game for months, maybe even longer, and expected to walk away clean. That's when I called Steve again. "I want to know everything," I said. "Where they're staying, what they're doing, who's still helping them." He got to work. Meanwhile, Brian filed an updated motion with the court, citing the fraud, the bank transfers, and the affair. I handed over full documentation of the false identity Ray had been using as Melissa's brother. With that, Brian pushed for a financial penalty and full separation of assets. Melissa's lawyer tried to delay, but the court didn't bite. Too much evidence. Too much filth. And then Steve came back with a bombshell. They were living with one of Melissa's old coworkers, a woman named Tara, in a rundown duplex near Peterson Air Force Base. But more than that, Ray had been bragging around town, posting on a private Telegram group about how he and his girl were about to cash out on her old husband's dime. He even posted a photo of my house. Steve printed everything. Screenshots, messages, photos. He found out Ray had several outstanding warrants in another state, low-level fraud, skipped court dates, even a DUI. He had changed his last name twice in 5 years. We handed all that to Brian. But I still wasn't done. I wanted them to know I didn't just survive, I won. So I started cleaning up the house, reclaiming every corner they tainted. I painted over the walls Ray had plastered with posters, burned the cheap rug they brought in, donated every piece of furniture she ever picked out. Then I installed cameras, outside, inside, every room but the bathroom. Not because I was paranoid, because I was preparing. And then I did something petty. I printed one of the photos of Melissa and Ray on the couch. The one where her legs were draped over him, both smiling like teenagers. I left it in the mailbox. No note, just the image. I knew they'd see it. The next day, Tara texted me from a blocked number. "You're sick. You need help." I didn't reply. That wasn't the point. The point was, I'm not hiding anymore. Let them squirm. Let them wonder. Because I wasn't done setting the trap. The real revenge? That part was still coming. The hearing was scheduled for a Friday morning in late March. I walked into that courtroom dressed in the same suit I wore to my father's funeral, dark gray, no tie, clean shave, calm face. Melissa was already seated, next to her lawyer, staring straight ahead like this was just another errand. Ray wasn't there. I found out later he had skipped town the night before. Because he knew what was coming. Brian laid everything out in brutal detail. The false identity Ray used. The financial drain. The betrayal. The iPad messages. The fraudulent brother setup. The hidden accounts. The surveillance footage. Even the Telegram group Ray bragged on. The judge listened silently for over an hour. Melissa's lawyer tried to spin it. Said I was obsessively retaliating after the marriage broke down. Said Melissa was emotionally vulnerable. That Ray had just been a support system that got complicated. I didn't say a word the whole time. I didn't need to. When the judge ruled, it wasn't just a win. It was a wipeout. Melissa was ordered to pay back half the savings she'd stolen, $42,000 over the next 5 years. She lost all rights to the house. I got full ownership, effective immediately. She was given 30 days to remove any personal belongings by scheduled appointment, supervised by court order. Ray? A bench warrant was issued for him. The fraud charges alone were enough to keep him running. Last I heard, he skipped Colorado entirely. But I still wasn't done. 2 days after the ruling, I met with Tara, the woman who'd let them stay. I asked her for one thing. Let me use your Wi-Fi for an hour. That's it. She agreed, reluctantly. I logged into Melissa's cloud drive using her saved credentials. She hadn't changed the password. Still used the same one she made up when we were first married. I downloaded everything. Photos of her and Ray. Notes about their future plans. Even a rough budget spreadsheet she made for the house sale they'd planned after I was out. Then I created an anonymous email. And I sent every file to Melissa's employer. Marketing firm. Conservative. Family values kind of place. A week later, she was let go. Cause not listed, but sources said public behavior inconsistent with company reputation. I didn't smile. Not really. But I slept in my own bed that night. In my house. Alone, in silence, with the heater humming and the streetlight shining through the window. It wasn't just revenge. It was a reset. Weeks passed. I painted every room. Replaced furniture. Started applying to new jobs again, real ones this time, with purpose. Every once in a while, I'd check the security footage. She'd show up in her old car, park across the street, just sit there. She never came to the door. She knew better now. Ray vanished. Some say he went back to Florida. Some say he's living out of motels. Doesn't matter to me. He'll trip up eventually. As for Melissa, she sent me one email a few months later. No subject. No apology. Just one sentence. Was it all worth it? I didn't reply. I just archived it. And then I poured myself a cold beer, the same kind he stole, and sat on the back porch of my house. My house. Because the real man of the house never left. He just waited for the right moment to remind everyone who he was.